Welcome back into the QB Huddle, folks. I'm Tim Smith. I'm joined, as always, by Low, aka Fourth and Low. If you want to follow him on TikTok, you can follow me at Tim Jitsu. But Low, how the heck are you, man?
Man, I'm great. I'm great. Good to be back. 1 week closer. 1 week closer,
Oh,
man.
we are so close to regular season football. We are brought to you by New Era Media. So thanks to New Era Media for putting us out into the stratosphere. Of course, thank you to allaccessfootball.com as they put us out every single week. And if you're not subscribed to our channel yet, be sure to do so. We are quickly on our way to our first 1,000. So thank you to the QB Huddlers for continuing to subscribe and check out our show. This week, we've got a fun show for you. Not a lot to talk about on the football front. But we are going to talk about eras of football, right? 1980s, 90s, 2000s to today, how it's changed, how maybe some quarterbacks from back then could be compared to the quarterbacks of today. So we're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of banter. Before we get into it, we've got to talk about the Cleveland Browns. This week they made some moves. Huntley gone. They got rid of Kenny Pickett. He's been traded to the Raiders. And so you're left with the final three. The depth chart goes like this: Joe Flacco, number one, no surprise. Dylan Gabriel, number two, really not a surprise based on the draft order. And then number three is Shador Sanders, who will sadly stay in Cleveland. Now, we talked about this off camera, Low. Let's get into it, man. You do not think that Shador Sanders should be number three. In fact, you think he's going to play before Dylan does. Talk about it.
That's what I wanted to say, man. Shador will see the field before Gabriel. The depth chart is because the
No way.
Cleveland Browns don't get it, man. They just trying to write their own narrative. They're saying we got to put him here because we drafted him three. I don't see what you apparently see in Gabriel or saw. Let's say saw. I see, man, I still see Shador getting bad situational football. And I get it. People want to blame the unit. People want to blame, you know, he was in the thirds. I'm not taking that route. Okay. I want to be clear. I'm not making an
No.
excuse
Okay.
for him there. But I am upset that he didn't get to do the final drive. You just cut Huntley. Pickett's gone. That means we should have seen more of Shador and more of Gabriel during this preseason time. Like, who are they protecting here? Who are they
I think they
protecting?
saw
Who are
enough.
they? You, you know. So,
This
and
week.
then Shador's last week, it wasn't the best outing, but the chance that he can make everyone forget about it, they pull him out. They pull him out. I don't like it. I don't like the way the Browns are moving, and I don't like that for 4 weeks. Me and you have been talking about the Cleveland Browns QB room.
Yeah, maybe this was the idea. Like, how can we get people to talk about us, the Cleveland Browns, in the offseason? Look, I don't agree with anything the Browns have done outside of Joe Flacco. I don't think that Dylan Gabriel should have been drafted in the third round. I don't think he should have went over Shador. However, I will say this: in watching the small sample size that we saw, to me it looks like today Dylan Gabriel from head to shoulder works a little bit faster than Shador was. He was the most sacked quarterback in 23 in college, most sacked quarterback in 24 in college, second most sacked quarterback this year, and he hasn't played that much in preseason in the NFL. What bothers me, we saw it last week. We saw two times, right? He had a 20-yard sack. Then he got away with one where he did actually get away from everybody and be able to run downfield. But he did the same thing this weekend. He doesn't like to step up into the pocket. He tends to run backwards. And I think that is the biggest draw. He has a much higher ceiling than Dylan Gabriel, without question to me. But I do believe today, game one, Flacco gets hurt. It's Dylan Gabriel right now. And I hate to say that. Yeah, I'm going to get a lot of flack, but he's just a little bit faster from head to shoulder right now than Shador is. It's going to take Shador some time. I think Shador's the better player long term, but I kind of see what the Browns have done here, and I'm glad they got rid of Kenny Pickett.
We can agree on one thing, and we'll move on because me and you know that we could spend
You
30 minutes on
spend the
Shador
whole
and the
show on this.
Browns. Exactly. So we'll move on, but I'm going to say one thing since you brought up the stats. Dylan Gabriel was not higher in yards or anything over Shador. While being the most sacked, he also was third in total yards. His completion percentage, I believe, was the highest. Gabriel was still behind him, and Gabriel played. They played. So you're at a
Yeah.
better school with a better O line. Mind you, I'm not going to say the worst, but it's bottom 10 in NCAA football with that offensive line. Shador tries to make plays. It's a learning curve for him, but I'm taking the player that wants to try to make plays and can fix up here and learn up here than the guy that already gets everything up here. So you saying, and he doesn't do anything with it. He's safe. Gabriel's playing safe, and he better learn how to be a competitor and an entertainer, or else that entertainer clause is going to sell some tickets and put him in the seats. And the Browns know the Bakers, the Manziels, they like to sell tickets. Gabriel ain't selling no tickets. And when that crowd starts yelling for Shador, you'll have no choice unless Flacco's winning games. So,
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake. I don't think they should have drafted him, right? But this is where they are, and they drafted him at third. So common sense tells you that unless he went out there and just shit the bed, which he really didn't do, he was going to be get the nod over Shador right now. But the Browns, again, their mistake was drafting him to begin with. They should have drafted Shador and been done with it. So let's move on to some
yep.
fun stuff. Right now,
Yeah.
I got to see the '80s. You got to see the '90s. Probably when you came in, we didn't even talk about the '70s because I'm not that old, folks. I was born in the '70s, but I was raised in the '80s. But we've got some great quarterbacks, man. We've got Joe Montana, Dan Marino, John Elway, Troy Aikman, although he came towards the later part of the '80s into the '90s. Tony Eason, Brett Favre, Steve Young. Let's start with that 1983 draft class, which I know you didn't see. How old were you
All
in
right.
1983? Were you even born yet?
I was a -6 years. That's how old I was.
Golly, -6 years. So that's how old I am. I remember this draft class. I was 11 years old. We had this is known as one of the best draft classes in NFL history. We had John Elway, Todd Blackledge. He really didn't amount to much. Jim Kelly, Tony Eason, Ken O'Brien, Dan Marino. That's a really good draft class, particularly with my guy Dan Marino. He was my favorite coming out. Almost won his Super Bowl. At least he got to one early in his career. Never got back. But man, what do you remember, if anything, about probably the late '80s going into the '90s? Try to stick in those '80s with those '80s guys. Do you remember any of those guys, Lauren?
Man, so reverse, right? The 80s was cool because you can still kind of find some footage on these guys. You could still go back and look up some accurate stats and get a taste of kind of what the football was going on.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, when you talk about, I discuss football with guys that are a little older as well, because this younger generation, geez Louise, don't get me started. But when you're arguing with people, old heads, as I would call them, man, you have to just go to the Dan Marino and Joe Montana, like two legends. They're in the same draft class. They're 80s guys to me, and they both kind of changed the game. I found a cool little thing that was kind of like they're so opposite, but yet they were in the same era and just like legends. So to me, man, Dan Marino, like I know because he's the guy, like he had a
Yeah.
cannon, he straight fire of his arm, quickest release I think the game still has seen to this day. And he could throw the ball 60 yards on a rope, bro. The talent was there. He's just, he wasn't about dinking and dunking like we know the next era probably was, but he wanted to rip your heart out with one throw. He was the gunslinger before gunslingers, man, just fearless in his own way. And if you switch to the other end, like I said, I don't know all the QBs, but I think I know Montana and Marino because I mean they're talked about. But I mean, Joe, he's the first Joe Cool, man. He's ice cold, never rattled, never shook. Straight assassin if you bring it down to it, but talent wise, I gotta go. Marino was something like we've never seen, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, there's
Marino
plenty other quarterbacks.
Marino was amazing. Jim Kelly, you can't take away from Jim Kelly, drafted in the '80s, obviously four Super Bowls, all losses in the '90s. But those two guys could throw as good as anybody. I love watching Dan Marino. Right, watching him growing up, I learned that's what a quarterback does. Right, get the ball out to your playmakers. You're right. You're ripping bombs down the sideline. You're taking hits as you're throwing the ball. He didn't care. Coming off all sorts of injuries. When he came off that Achilles tear, playing in the mud his first game. There's never forget those Jets Dolphins games. Ken O'Brien versus Dan Marino. You had the fake spike there in New York. That was awesome. And then you had Montana. Montana was to me a product mostly of Bill Walsh. As was Jerry Rice. I feel like that West Coast offense, no one had seen it before, but Montana was very Brady-ish, right? Or Brady was Montana-ish. He knew what was going to happen before it happened, right? He always put the ball in the right spot. He wasn't flashy about it. He wasn't going to throw the ball 40 times a game like a Dan Marino, but play action he was great at, and getting the ball into the playmakers' hands. Right now, Joe Montana, that's what that West Coast offense was predicated on. And then here comes John Elway, right? We get into the
Yeah.
90s a little bit, and we hadn't seen a guy that could throw the ball. John Elway and Brett Favre, those two guys could throw the ball so hard that it could leave an indentation in your chest, even through your shoulder pads. Did you not catch the ball? I loved John Elway. That dude could run. He could run through you or around you. He could throw the ball on the run, do it all. Brett Favre, I hated because he played for the Green Bay Packers, but he could do all the same things. He also excelled at throwing interceptions. Talk to me. Did you watch Brett Favre and John Elway play?
Yeah, man. So I'll go on Elway
Woo.
first because Favre is, something else. So John Elway, dude, what strikes out to me, I kind of caught the back end when I was a kid of him playing, but the early games you go back and watch, he's the dude that when it came to comebacks, you would want to have him, you almost wanted to be down late in the fourth, crowd going crazy. That's the guy you wanted. He flips the scripts. I mean, he lived for those moments, it seemed like. He had a strong arm. And I know looking back, a lot of people may think I'm crazy. He was crazy mobile. Okay. John Elway still could move around. And that never quit attitude that most quarterbacks from this era had. He didn't just win games, man. He would steal them back. You got the drive. I mean, 98 yards under the lights, man, season on the line. That's just ice cold in his veins. I've played in a couple games where 13 seconds and I'm just locked in, dude. Like there's arena football game, 13 seconds is way too much time.
Right?
Three plays in that time, down to 2 seconds, got the win. Denver like was on his back. You couldn't count him out. And I think Elway just made a career off breaking people's hearts in the fourth quarter. We know there's other quarterbacks that do that. But Elway was that guy. And for Favre, man, he's my, like we talked, we're getting into it, but he's the guy. He's the guy for me that when I started watching football, like that's who it was for me. He's my first favorite QB, like without a doubt. It was Brett Favre. And a lot of people have asked, why and this, that, and third, because he's a gunslinger. If people that know me to play, especially in my earlier years, he'd drop back, he see the tiniest window and just let it rip. And yes,
Yeah.
you either knew it was a dime or a disaster.
Hey,
But he was going
I,
to go out swinging every single time. He played hurt. He had the bounty gate. He played, in the cold. He played with fire, if you really think about it. But that Southern toughness that he had, that backyard football mentality, it was just raw. It was gritty, and you could tell in Brett Favre's face it was real. Favre wasn't polished to me. He was a warrior with a rocket arm, and he's my first man without question. Um,
Favre was a
he
kid
was
in the
the QB.
playground. And by the way, he would make comebacks mostly because he was the one throwing those early game interceptions, and he had to make the comeback. He had to do something. Hey, I've got some breaking news. Breaking news, just got a text from my wife. Taylor Swift is engaged to Travis Kelce, ladies and gentlemen. Travis Kelce has popped the question. Congratulations, Travis. Big ups to you. I
Super
look
Bowl.
forward to Taylor Swift singing in the Super Bowl while the Chiefs are winning the game, because it's all a script. And now we know what the script is going to be. But congratulations. Breaking news here on the QB Huddle podcast. Taylor Swift has said yes to Travis Kelce, and they will be getting married whenever they get married, but they are officially engaged. Thank you, Gretchen, for the
Love it.
breaking
Love the
news.
source. Love the source. Much
Love the
appreciated.
source. Love the source. Man, I'll tell you, watching football in the 80s for me and going into the 90s was a lot of fun. John Elway, my favorite memory of him was in the Super Bowl. Of course, they had taken beatings, a beating to Washington in an earlier Super Bowl, but John Elway's able to get back and he wants to win this game, right? And he's older. He probably needs to retire. He's running down the field against the Packers. He jumps, he helicopters at like the 5-yard line for the first down. Man, that just the grit that John Elway showed and how important it was for him to get that win. It just came through, right? Quarterbacks, they were all about the team. They wanted to win. That's all that mattered back then. And really, football was different in the 80s and even in the 90s than it is now. It's all about branding, how much money can we make, and protecting oneself. But back then, it was Brett Favre, throw your body around, take some Vicodin, drink a beer, go back out, throw your body around, do what needs to be done. They were just woo, and you could hit the quarterback back then, folks. You could really hit the quarterback in 1984.
The
The
goal,
80
let's be real, the
or
goal was to
85.
hurt quarterbacks.
It was. The
The
85
goal
Bears
was
had
to
to
hurt.
knock out at least 7 quarterbacks in that season. And that was the goal, knock them out. You couldn't get the Dan Marino, so you weren't knocking him out. You couldn't get, I mean, you could get the John Elway, but you probably didn't want to take a big hit on him. He would take off on you. You know who else I loved in that era was Randall Cunningham, because we
Yeah.
started seeing the game change as we got into the 90s, right? And all of a sudden, you've got guys that can run around. Randall Cunningham was so exciting. We'd never seen a guy like that tall and lanky. He could run, he could jump, hurdle, and throw at the same time. And then you had Steve Young enter the chat. You had a left-hander that could run. I mean, there was some really great stuff in the 90s as we started to change with these more running quarterbacks. And then you've got the jersey on right there, Michael Vick. Talk about it. Talk about Michael Vick.
That's my guy, man. When I was old enough to learn football and the mindset of Brett Favre was there, I discovered that I can run too. I can move around. I started watching more college football. You knew where Virginia Tech was, and when he came into the game, barring injury, like Michael Vick kind of changed the setting for me and was like, yo, I want to play the quarterback position now. Not only did I like quarterbacks, I wasn't playing football at a young age. I was watching it. I didn't play it until I was in seventh and eighth grade, and that's early 2000s and into the chat, Michael Vick. So um I love their game. I just, Michael Vick took it to another level for me, and that defined the next 10 years of my quarterback play. Um, and I don't think that people realize, yes, you had the Cunninghams, the McNairs, but for black quarterbacks, Michael Vick was he brought some culture to it as well, kind of like a AI effect when he was, wearing certain things, man. Like I had a 3-bar face mask with a visor as a quarterback. And that was because Michael Vick. I let one chin strap down on purpose. Why? Because that's how Michael Vick played.
How Michael
You know
Vick
what I
did it.
mean? So yeah, Michael Vick was my guy after Brett Favre, man.
Well, sadly, I could never move like Michael Vick, and I didn't quite have the gun that Brett Favre had. I tend, and like I said, couldn't run. I tend to pattern after the Dan Marinos of the world. Just stand back in the shotgun, give me 5 receivers, let me throw the ball around. But I couldn't run. So if you got to me, it was a guaranteed sack, no question. So as much as you'd like to remember that ride or the commercial where they had the Michael Vick
The
experience, where
Michael Vick
you got in the
experience.
thing,
Yeah,
that should have been a real ride. I don't know why we can't
absolutely.
have a real ride like that. But that looked like fun to be Michael Vick. Hey, if you guys are watching right now, tell us in the chat who's your favorite quarterback of the 80s and 90s, and who might be underrated that we're not talking about
Yeah,
right
who'd
now
we
because maybe
miss?
they didn't win.
Yeah, who'd we miss? Tell us who we
We we
missed. We
we
know
had to have missed somebody, but there, ooh, that gunslinger era. That was the 90s, the gunslinger era where guys
for
were just
sure.
throwing the ball all over the place, except for one
Tough.
guy. One guy. And I'm gonna make Cowboy fans really upset.
Yep.
I'm a Cowboy fan.
Here it
If you're
comes.
watching the documentary, some things come true. And I remember the Cowboys 90s. I was younger then. I drank a lot during the game, so I don't have a clear recollection of everything. But one thing comes clear, that Troy Aikman was the ultimate system quarterback. Now, I know he won some Super Bowls, but he had the best O line. He had one of the best running backs. He had 2 great wide receivers. He had a great tight end. He had a defense that had their back at all times if they weren't performing. And look at the way that Troy Aikman played before everything was put around him. And look at the way he played when Eric Allen got hurt, right, in that 93 season or 94 season. Man, I don't know how you feel about this, Low. I I don't see Troy Aikman in the same light that maybe I remember him back in my early 20s. I look at Troy Aikman and I think of a guy today. I think Jalen Hurts, and I
Oh,
don't think a lot of Jalen Hurts. So
I know
uh,
you don't.
that's kind of the
And
competition for me.
so it poses I think the word I'm looking for is a juxtaposition, but they're different eras, and I'm not gonna put Troy Aikman in the same bubble as Jalen Hurts because of one season, right? And Jalen Hurts is still going on. We know Troy Aikman's story. We know what he had. We know what he didn't have. But if you are watching the documentary, shout out to the documentary, by the way. It's great. I'm not a Cowboys fan. It's great, though. It gives you insight to other teams as well.
It's great.
But there was some nervousness, remember, when Aikman went down. Because I don't know the backup's name. He was playing well. He was playing well. So
Steve
I'm going to
Berline
go with
came in and
Jerry's
did a great
statement
job.
and say my old statement is Troy Aikman was a tier two quarterback. Yes. I don't want to put him in the same realm as Jalen Hurts. I'm going to give Jalen Hurts the edge on this one. And the only reason we're giving Aikman is because he has two bowls. Um, but yes, I agree with you. He's a system manager. He's a game manager. He's a system QB, but he was a damn good one.
Troy Aikman
Jalen
has
Hurts is a little
3.
bit better than that. Jalen Hurts
Troy
is a
has
little bit better
3
than that.
Super Bowls, bro. You
Yeah,
you you said
two
2.
of
I
them.
need you to
Two of
revert
them. I
to
two of
3.
them. I'm. What I'm saying is two of them are. I would say he had a big part of. The last one, it's collective, man, collective, because he was
Okay.
pitching the whole time too. So
I'm certainly not going to sit here and say Jalen Hurts was better than Troy. Troy was an extremely stoic personality. He was a great leader, very vocal, strong arm, very accurate. Right, one of the most accurate
Troy
quarterbacks of
kind
all
of was
time.
a glimpse. You know what I will give Troy? Troy was a glimpse into our next segment here. He was a glimpse into what the dynasty era quarterbacks were going to be.
He was. He was. What I mean, would you say he was better than Joe Montana? I would say no. Was he better
No,
than Dan Marino? No.
no,
You know,
no.
I'm gonna say
Tier
another
two.
thing, and there's some of you that know this is coming. He wasn't better than Tony Romo.
I agree with you though. I'm a Tony
The
Romo
only
fan.
the
I'm not a
only reason
Cowboys
he's
fan.
better than Dak Prescott is because in playoff games he never. That's not true. In '94, he shit the bed in
They're
Candlestick.
both better than
But
Dak Prescott.
who? Who
Romo
both?
and Aikman are both better
True.
than Dak
True.
Prescott.
But the thing that separates Aikman and Dak is they're very, very similar. The thing that separates them is how they perform in big games. Troy Aikman, the lights are bright. He played great. Dak Prescott, the lighter the brights get, the less he plays. So to me, that's the difference between the two of them. The
Yeah,
only difference.
I think one plays to win the game and one plays not to lose. That's the biggest
There you
difference for
go.
me.
There you go. I like
So,
that. Yeah. Troy
yeah.
Aikman was a winner. We'll give him that. He had that. He had that about him. But from a talent standpoint, ultimate system quarterback, no question. So
Yeah.
let's move on to today's era. We've got some stuff to talk about, right? We've got key quarterbacks: Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Well, this isn't today's era, right? We're not there yet. No, we're in just the
The
early 2000s. I'm ahead. But we've got Brady, Manning, Drew Brees, Donovan McNabb, Tony Romo, Philip Rivers, Michael Vick. These guys came in and they started putting up big numbers. And what did we see mostly was that Brady versus Manning. That was high drama, right? That was the number one game of the year that we wanted to watch each and every year. I know that you were around for this as a Patriots fan. What was it like to know that Brady Manning was going to happen at some point in the playoffs every single season? Oh, we can't hear you anymore. We can't hear you, Lo. So we're having some technical difficulties with fourth and low over there, but you guys remember Brady Manning, those games would come down to the nitty gritty. Who got the ball last? It was very much like Mahomes Allen today or Allen Lamar, Mahomes Lamar. I mean, you couldn't wait for those two to match up. Are we better yet? Got you. We got you. So talk to me about those Brady Manning games, man. Yeah, I know you were there for every single one of them. Right.
to come out on top simply because we had a defense and we knew that the Colts it's offensive driven. They're the modern day Joe Burrow, right? That's where I put Joe Burrow in there. You got your Reggie Wayne, you got your Marvin, right? And you're throwing to these guys, and you spend all the money on those guys and it amounted to Super Bowls. They were competitive.
They made it to AFC championships, but you're getting over on Brady. So sorry, got to play a complete game. Brady took system and game manager, all that to a whole new level. And Manning paved the way in a different mindset. He was the first, in my opinion, quarterback coach on the field. You know what I mean? You didn't know what you were getting, and he did it again in Denver. I know people think he was carried and all this other stuff, but he still was the quarterback of the Denver Broncos and and did what he needed to do. So yeah, I love the matchups. It's shaped, like you said, the decade. You knew what you were gonna get, and it was like there's other greats here. That's the tough part. You have the Philip Rivers, the Drew Brees, but nothing was superseding, if you will, those two guys. So
Like you had Ben Roethlisberger, great quarterback during those days. Again, of course, I talk about Romo. You had McNabb doing things. I mean, he went to 4 straight NFC title games, went to a Super Bowl, uh, just barely lost to your Patriots. So you're talking every single week there was a good quarterback matchup. It felt like, and we never had a lull. There were some bad quarterbacks in there a little bit. You definitely had some poo-poo quarterbacks that we probably shouldn't even mention. But those Breeze Manning game or the Manning Brady games, Drew Brees down in New Orleans when he got into that dome with Sean Payton, they went crazy. Do you remember just the crazy numbers that were be putting up? And I felt like these quarterbacks were probably on a text group, even though text messaging wasn't a thing back then. But if it was probably an email group, and they were probably just talking smack left and right. I threw 4 this week. I threw 3. I threw for 400 yards. I threw for 500 yards. It was a crazy time in the NFL, was it not?
yo, super crazy. So, story about that Saints team. I got to see them play because that was the Hurricane Katrina year. So they relocated to the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, and I made sure to get tickets to see Michael Vick play the Saints, and I got to see that overtime game
Mm,
where with the field goal where I think they won, but they relocated for 4 games, and I went to one of them. And yeah, Drew Brees was operating. I was a fan of his as well, simply because of the height. You know, he's 5'10", so the way he
right.
navigated the pocket was great. But yeah, I mean, you talked about um, McNabb and these other quarterbacks that were there. One of them to me is your boy, Tony Romo. He
Oh,
he had a bad rap, man. It's tough, and the year that he was supposed to do well, he got hurt. That team was really, really set up for success, and it shows because that's Dak's probably best season to date, and he stole it. He stole it. It was highway
stole it.
robbery. He stole it from Romo, and it is what it is. So another one we didn't talk about is the other Manning, who I don't want to talk about, Brady versus Eli Manning.
Mr. Two Times. Mr. Two Times. That's what we'll call him. Mr.
So
Two Times.
needless to say, Brady does probably not like the Manning family. So
Well, they're good friends. I mean, but
now,
I
now,
understand.
now.
Now, I understand. Yeah. Have you ever seen the wrap off and Eli Manning comes out and he goes, Tom Brady's the GOAT. Psych, I beat him twice. I love that one. So I wanted to say that on air. But you brought up Romo, so you opened the door, which I appreciate. Romo's the guy that almost was, right? Um, in Green Bay, you have the DeMarco Murray fumble where he's running free for a touchdown, and then you had the debacle catch or no catch with Des Bryant. In the Seattle
Not
game,
a
you've got your
debacle. It was a no catch. Let's just
it
make
was a catch. Then you have then you have the Seattle game early in his career when he's playing great, gets him to the playoffs. For some reason, he's still the holder, and that's the first year of the K ball. And now we're in Seattle. It's like 20 degrees, and you simply can't even catch the K ball. So uh, I just feel like it was just something Tony Romo did early in his life. Some sort of karma came for him every single time he got close. And the most gut wrenching heartbreaking year was 2016. I had just drafted him in fantasy 10 minutes prior, and then he goes down against Seattle. It seemed like Seattle was a lot of his burden. He goes down against Seattle. In comes Dak Prescott. Tony's healthy week 10, and he doesn't get to play. And I will never, I will never forgive Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys for that move because I feel like it really cost us a legit opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. I really do. But let me ask you this. I already know who you're going to say. You need one quarterback in that 2000 era. Are you taking Brady, Manning, or somebody else?
Yeah, I'm taking Brady. I'm taking
I'm
Brady.
taking Brady.
You have to. There is someone in the later era I might think about taking. But if we're just talking about the 2000s, man, I'm going Brady simply because he proved it over and over again. Manning's great, don't get me wrong, but there's just something about that that 12, saying let's go. Like
Let's go. Yeah,
that's not it's just
I'm with you. I can't even argue. I
yeah.
want to argue, but I
Yeah.
can't. There's
Yeah,
there's
no one
nobody.
should. No one should.
I mean, the only guy that I might consider would be Romo because I love him.
Unless he's
And
playing with a certain football in certain weather, and to
yeah,
me,
unless he's got to be the
biggest
holder.
the biggest weight that Romo had was being a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. And
Yeah.
Dak wearing it as well right now. It's hard to wear the star. So
Well, it's hard to wear the star, and it doesn't help when Jerry Jones, who's a great businessman, he's done great by the Dallas Cowboys, but the fact that he believes in his mind that he is a legitimate GM still baffles me, and it comes across so strong in this documentary. And then he's sitting with Stephen A. Smith the other day, and he says, "You're talking to the GM of the Dallas Cowboys," and I'm like, "Well, there we go. That's our problem. That's the issue." I don't
problem
know. He's got to
is
he's an alcoholic. He's got to have some dementia in there, and he's just doing everything wrong. And he has been. He built that team with Jimmy, right? They built that team together, and since then, he built that team, and he's the one, and he's the reason. But he's never had success since, and he's the reason. He's the reason that we will never go back to a Super Bowl in my lifetime unless he dies first, which I think he probably died like 10 years ago. And somehow, right, they've just kept him alive and talking to us. I'm not sure how, but that dude, he looks half dead every time I see him. Anyway, we got to get off Jerry Jones.
he's
We
great at borrowing money and he's great at borrowing time. So I guess he's making it happen. So
He certainly made a deal with the devil for those 3
hey,
Super Bowls.
yeah, I mean,
Positive.
and by the time we hit the 2010s, the quarterback position was changing. So Jerry's going to have to adapt with that as well. Off the Jerry Jones kick, though, efficiency,
Please.
mobility, and a guy comes in named Patrick Mahomes, right? There's other guys in here. Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Lamar, Josh Allen, caught up now. These are guys that we're still seeing, and some of which are in their prime, and some on the way out. But we can't forget about the early 2010s as well. So I mean, give me your thoughts. My biggest one, one of my biggest one, Aaron Rodgers, man. Aaron Arm, like the arm talent, undeniable.
His efficiency and arm talent was fantastic. You know what? Nobody gets it all. And one thing that Rodgers was missing was that clutch gene. Yes, he threw a couple of Hail Marys, but he also lost a lot of home playoff games for the Green Bay Packers, which was unheard of before Aaron Rodgers entered the chat in Green Bay. So for me, he's not a great winner, but yes, arm talent and the things that, places he could put the ball was next level, right? And some might call it luck. I tend to do that a lot with him. Again, he played for the Packers, so I couldn't stand that as a Packer hater. But yeah, you couldn't deny the fact that he could throw the ball as good as any of them, and he could throw from different angles. He was really the first guy to throw from all these different angles that we see from a Matthew Stafford and a Patrick Mahomes and some other guys. He was the first one to do it.
They're coaching it now. They're coaching it. They
Yeah.
they coach different angles and being able to do it. And if the legs can match, that's great. But Aaron Rodgers, man, that arm talent is just undeniable and jumps off the page to me. Another one that probably not mentioned and people forget about. He's a current giant, man. Russell Wilson. He was the first one to navigate the pocket and truly run a West Coast style downhill, but still throwing bombs for over 4,000 yards. Like Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl winner early in his career. And I don't think that he's, as bad as people like to say in the recent years. So still,
I don't think he's bad at all. I think Russell Wilson, for being so tiny, he's had a big career. He plays the game the right way. He's somewhat athletic, not uber athletic, but he can run, especially earlier in his career. And he's very accurate with the ball. He does throw a pretty deep ball. Yeah, I love Russell Wilson. And then we talked about some of those guys, and I can't believe I'm going to bring this guy up, but we talked about the running quarterbacks, the Randall Cunninghams, the Michael Vicks. And even though the first real running quarterback to win a Super Bowl was Steve Young, we don't consider that because we forget how good he could run, because he could throw the ball as good as anybody as well. But Cam Newton came in as a black quarterback, not a white left-handed guy who could run a little bit from BYU. But you're talking about the black quarterback, which at the time was still trying to really break in to the norm, right? So you've got this 6'5" dude. I mean, he's bigger than any linebacker in the league. And now he's running through the league in that MVP season. He was throwing, I think he threw for over 4,000 yards. That was the first time he really unleashed his arm. And he changed the outlook of not only the black quarterback, but the mobile quarterback. It wasn't just, oh, he can just run, because Cam in that one season could do it all. Talk about that, because I know you love you some Cam Newton.
I do, man. He's on the wall.
I see him.
He's on the wall. Cam changed the game, man. People don't want to give him his flowers because he is a little bit of arrogant and a lot of things come out of him. He's a big man, but everyone goes to this one play that he had and it just overrules everything else. And like, if you give the details of that play, it would have been 4th and 12. It would have been 4th and 12. Why dive on the ball? It's not gonna you're punting it. Maybe better field.
You can punt.
I get it, but it's not really doing anything whether he dives on it or doesn't, in my opinion. Yes, it matters because it for the psyche, but man, I'm not taking away from it because of one play. You can't let that happen. Like Tony Romo, I don't hold his simple hold that could have won against him. I try not to hold it against him. You know what I mean? But that's his mess up. Sure, if Cam says, I believe if he does it again, or if he could do it again, he still wouldn't dive on the fumble. I don't necessarily believe that's true. But his MVP season, I'm sorry, paved the way. Everyone jumped in line to draft the next Cam Newton. Look at Anthony.
But we didn't. We really haven't had one outside of maybe Josh Allen, because of the pure size and athleticism. Although I would argue Josh Allen and Cam Newton aren't in the same conversation. I would argue that because I think Allen's better at everything. But
I don't know about everything. You're not scared that Josh Allen's going to say hut and run right up the middle. You know it's there, but you knew it was coming with Cam Newton, and there was nothing you could do to stop it. He was going to Superman you and dab on you. And there's nothing you could do to do it. Like, there's nothing you could do. There's nothing.
That's fine. Does it change his legacy for you, though, when he says winning the Super Bowl wasn't nearly as important to him as winning his MVP? That he wouldn't give up his MVP to have a Super Bowl? Because to me, you're a quarterback and you simply can't be that selfish. You can't.
I don't want to speak on how I would perceive, because I'm not in that situation, but I want to bring up a quote that Jameis was just talking about that I saw. I think he was on Pivot. I don't know what he was on, but he said, I didn't set my goals high enough. And I feel like that's where Cam Newton was. He wanted to be the best player. He was breaking barriers. I don't think he ever really truly saw himself as this multi-Super Bowl winning person. He knew he's the best player on the field. He wanted to get that, and a Super Bowl would have been bonus. I don't know. I don't know. I might take either one. That's what I'm getting at. I might take either one. I don't know if a Super Bowl weighs heavier or if the MVP season, but Cam Newton would not be solidified as Cam Newton with the Super Bowl without the MVP.
Okay. B. Newey in the chat says Cam's a Hall of Fame talent. I'm going to disagree with that wholeheartedly. Just because you're 6'5", 250 and can run like a freight train, that's not talent. That's just given ability. He wasn't near the passer of the other quarterbacks in his era. So because you play the quarterback position, if you can't use your arm to win games, I don't feel like you are a Hall of Fame talent. He did not have Hall of Fame arm talent. Agree or disagree?
I disagree with you because he is. We can't see it because we're still stuck on this mentality that quarterbacks are supposed to do certain things. If Jalen Hurts
will he get there
on his path, he's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Regardless of how you want to dress it up, you know. And Lamar is a testament to this. To would have been on the same path, but it's changed his game to what the spectators want to see, right? Cam Newton did it his way when no one said he could. He did it his way. He's a winner. He has all, Cam Newton is a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, he's a Hall of
Okay.
Famer, and it is because of size and stature as well as talent. But Cam put it all together. Because if that's the case, then
Disagree.
why don't we have Anthony Richardson looking like a? Why don't we have Josh Allen's MVP but no Super Bowl? You know, he's on the same path. You know, so I don't know. I don't know. Cam is one of those players that changed the course of quarterback history, and that's also tied in there. So that's a tough one, man, because I don't know. Do you think Cam Newton is better than Jalen Hurts?
Wow, that's
Yep, I'm dropping it.
yes. I'll
I
say
dropped
yes. I'll say yes. And I'll say because Cam Newton at one point for a very brief period in time was a true dual threat. He could throw the ball and he could run. Now, do you want Cam Newton throwing the ball 35 times, 40? No, I don't want Cam Newton throwing the ball that much. But if I had to pick Cam Newton or Jalen Hurts, I'm probably going to take Cam, although I like Jalen Hurts' mentality better, right? You missed me with the quarterback going in the end zone when the running back scored on that side, and you're on this side doing Superman and dabbing and doing all that shit. They just want to kick the extra point, bro. Get off the field. You didn't do anything. You handed the ball off. So that kind of that whole Cam Newton aura kind of bothered me. You're a quarterback. You're not a receiver. You're not a running back. You're not a DB. Stop acting like prime Deion Sanders, dude. You're a quarterback. So that bothered me a little bit. But I do not think he'll be in the Hall of Fame. I'll be shocked if he does get into the Hall of Fame. If he does, I think it would only be because of what you referenced, paving the way for some of these other guys, right? And so you have to look at history and how the black quarterback has evolved to now to where now, in my mind, it's no longer a conversation. Black, white, Chinese, whatever it is. If you can play quarterback, you can play quarterback. And I love that we've gotten to that point. At least I think we have. You talked about this off air, right? We talked about Lamar and Allen. We know they're great talents. We look forward to those games, but there's one guy that sticks out because of the wins, and that's Patrick Mahomes. You think he's already in the GOAT conversation?
on pace.
I can't put him there. I can't put him there yet. On pace, maybe.
We're talking about a player that is being compared to other guys that may be other people's GOATs or who they refer to as GOATs. And I wouldn't even say he's halfway through his career. He's approaching the halfway mark. He still has room to grow, still has things to learn, and he's already on pace, if not still ahead of pace, assuming he plays 15 to 20 years, which he can. He takes care of his body. I think he does very well. There's some times where I'm like, what is this guy doing? But he pulls it off. I mean, he has to be in the conversation more so than the rest of the guys. We're talking about Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and yet we're still saying Patrick Mahomes is more than a few steps ahead of these guys. It's got to be. He's in the talks. He could be on a he could be up there real quick. And if he wins that last Super Bowl, this isn't even a conversation.
Okay. I mean, he's got to win 4 to be in the talk. You win 4, then we talk about it. I also am very interested to see what we get from Patrick Mahomes when Andy Reid retires. Like, how much is Patrick Mahomes because of Andy Reid, or is it the other way around? I don't know, because I've seen Andy Reid go to several championship games with Donovan McNabb, who wasn't Patrick Mahomes. So
there's a reason why he won, and it's Patrick. If Andy Reid's a staple, Patrick's why they won. And once again, we're talking about a similar scenario that the last time we talked about, I want to see what he does without this coach, was Tom Brady.
True. And Tom Brady did it without Bill Belichick. So I'll give you that all day. Is Patrick Mahomes the face of the league today? Is he the one? I think he is.
Absolutely.
Certainly. Right. Everyone cheers for Patty Mahomes, right? It's almost impossible not to like.
You're a pure hater Mahomes. If you're not. You're a hater if you don't.
Sorry. Hater. Okay. Who is your face of the league? We want you to tell us in the chat. Who is your face of the league? Who is your best quarterback out there right now? We didn't answer that question. Lo, I'll let you answer first. You said face of the league, but who is your can't miss quarterback today that you refuse to miss a game? He's on TV, you want to watch.
I will, and it's only this year, and I have. You got to rephrase that. Are you saying who's my quarterback to watch this year, or who are you saying like
Who's your favorite quarterback?
right
Who just brings out joy to you right now?
right now? It's Joe Burrow. So
Joe Burrow.
I gotta
Okay.
tune into Joe each week. He has two weapons that I want to see get active. Like I want to see what they're gonna do. Um, and I feel like he knows. Again, it's the Manning kind of aura. He knows that if this offense doesn't put up 35 points a game, there's a chance you lose every game.
Probably more than a chance.
Tuning in, I want to see if he backs it up. I want to see if he pushes for the true MVP, of which he was last year, in my opinion, statistically. Like I think he goes for it this year, and he's the one that I'm tuning in to, where I think this guy wants to get back in the conversation.
Okay. I love that. I love Joe Burrow. I, I hate watching the Bengals, but I love Joe Burrow. The Bengals are pretty trash, especially on defense, but I love Joe Burrow. Let's talk about the chat real quick before I give you mine, because Brandon, well, first he says Cam's one of the greatest players of all time, but we know Brandon knew he says that. And then he says narratives kill him. Mahomes is making the throws, not Andy. Totally understand that. But if Mahomes is playing for the Chicago Bears, we're not having this conversation about Patrick Mahomes. So give Andy his credit for building this team and building an offense that Patrick Mahomes can excel in,
We don't
because
know that.
they need
We
each
don't
other.
know that.
They need each other. I don't see any quarterback having success in Chicago. So I mean,
So that's more of a Chicago diss than it is a Patty diss. Got it.
correct. He does agree with you that the face of the league is Mahomes. Can't miss Mahomes, Lamar, and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. My favorite is Josh Allen. I don't think that's a huge shocker to anybody. Why do I love Josh Allen? I can't really put my finger on it, man. He's a good guy. Buffalo loves him. I've always had a fascination with Buffalo since I played for the Hanover Park Bills a long time ago. So the Bills have always, had a special place for me. But Josh Allen, just the way he plays the game with the enthusiasm of like a child almost. And, I like him to reel in some of the craziness, right? He's got some Brett Favre in him, kind of get rid of that mess. He did a better job last year. I love to watch Josh Allen. I love to watch Lamar, just, how he runs through defenses and the fact that he's become a legitimate passer over the last couple of years. Watching the Ravens is fun to an extent. I don't like all the running, and all that stuff. I like passes, throw the ball, but you got Derrick Henry, so you got to hand off sometimes. But let's get to the end of this. We've got to give our Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, right? Now, this could change over time, but today, who is your top 4 Mount Rushmore quarterbacks? This doesn't necessarily have to be the NFL GOAT, just your favorite. If you were building, who are you putting up there?
Yeah, I mean, some of them check the GOAT category. Let's be real. I like a good quarterback. So Brady automatically, I'm not disrespecting my dog. He's number 1 off rip, and I'm gonna put him in there. Peyton Manning, to me, man, I was a Peyton Manning like hater, if you will, because of the rivalry that they had. But you got to respect his game. So he's up there for me. And then you go back to what I feel like changed the NFL, and it's the guy on your chest right now, Dan Marino. I'm going to put him up there, especially because I respect that we talk about this guy like he won Super Bowls, right? And he didn't. So
And he didn't.
Got to be up there for me. And this last one, I'm going to piss off everybody. I don't really care. He's currently playing. Patrick Mahomes will end up on Mount Rushmore and deserves to be on there right now because of his quarterback play. I don't care who's coaching him. I don't care what defense it is. Patrick Mahomes will end up as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And he's there right now. He's sniffing the surface. I'm going to put in the honorable mentions. You talked about the Josh Allens. He's Jim Kelly, reincarnated until he wins the Super Bowl. He hadn't even got there yet. And Kelly at least got there. And these are all current guys that could in there. Patrick's a step ahead of them. If he wins the Super Bowl, this isn't even an argument. So yeah, did I leave off some guys you're probably going to mention? Possibly, right? Some people have Aikman up there, Delulus, right? They're the Cowboys' delusional.
Delulus. I love that word.
Then we also got the guys from your era that we talked about. I threw Dan in there. I'm curious to see if the Steve Youngs crack it for you. I'm curious to see. I mean, some people even Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers, man, they were a Super Bowl away, some of them, and being Mount Rushmore guys. But in my opinion, that's who I got. There's other guys that maybe paved the way that people wouldn't like that I put up there. You know, one of them we just talked about, Cam Newton. But I'm going off of quarterback play as well, trying to be a realist. Patrick's my guy. Not even a Chiefs fan like that, but I'm a Patrick Mahomes fan. So who do you got? Who's replaced? Who's not?
Well, I can't put Mahomes in there. He hasn't even retired yet. How's he on a Mount Rushmore? And
How
we
is-
haven't
how
seen
is
his full
McCarthy-
body of work.
How is McCarthy one of your top QBs and he ain't played a regular season snap yet?
I didn't put McCarthy as one of my top QBs this year yet. He's got to play some.
He
I
said
mean,
he
but he will be. He will be. I promise.
Got
But
it. So who do you
golly,
got? Who do you got?
Brandon's.
Hear yours.
By the way,
You have a couple.
Brandon's with you. Brandon's with you. He's got Brady, Montana, Mahomes, and Favre.
Ooh,
Brett Favre.
nice. Yes, Favre.
Brett
I
Favre.
wanted to put him in there, but that's just my guy personally.
That
and
throws me for a loop. So I'll start with the obvious, Dan Marino.
Yeah.
Right. Dan Marino, first name that comes to mind. Next, Tom Brady. Right. Very, very easy. Joe Montana. As much as I wasn't a Joe Montana fan or a 49er fan,
Got you.
respect what he did. Joe Montana. And then this last one was tough for me. I really wanted to put Randall Cunningham in there because he was kind of the guy that paved the way for some of what we see today. But I couldn't because Randall Cunningham, as good as he was, as exciting as he was, he never won anything. So came close with Minnesota, but he never won anything. So I'm going to go to John Elway because John Elway was a guy to me that I was trying to learn how to play the quarterback position, watching John Elway play. He was a big influence of mine. I just loved the way he just ripped that thing, man. He just no care, rip it in between coverage. He had the drive against Cleveland. That day made me a massive John Elway fan, right? And so for me, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, John Elway, Tom Brady. I think that will change in the coming years. You ask me 5 years from now, it'll be a different list. It'll probably be more colorful as well. But today, I've just got the OGs on there. So I hope no one's mad. No one's going to come for me. I hope not. That's what I got. I can't put Mahomes in there, man. He hasn't retired yet. Who do you have, though? Put it in the chat like Mr. Brandon Newey did.
Yeah.
And he's right. There's a lot of quarterbacks that we could put in here. Man, that's why this is so great. Everyone's going to have an opinion. This isn't going by stats or numbers. This is how do you feel? Who are your guys that you like to watch? There's no right or wrong answer here. So we love that. Hey, guys, we've got some exciting stuff coming up. We've got the regular season coming up next week. We're going to dive into the scenarios of who's going to win the division, go into the wild card, go to division, and we're going to take you all the way to the Super Bowl next week because we know there's not going to be a lot to talk about, but we've got to gear up for this season. And Lo will do a fantasy segment. He just learned that 5 seconds ago. So Lo's going to do a fantasy segment for you guys. Otherwise, I don't have a lot to talk about except to thank New Era Media, to thank allaccessfootball.com. Lo, do you have anything to share before we go?
No, man.
No.
I was hoping you would announce the fantasy. I got drafts running right now. I have everything from a dynasty draft that we draft next week, just rookies, to I got 2 leagues that we just drafted. And I'll tell you what, man, Yahoo, they did not give me some good grades, but I'm hoping that I drafted well. And we'll talk, quarterback draft picks. I'll come up with different scenarios if you don't have one, guys you should trade for, and a couple what do they call them? Piggybackers, guys that don't worry, Tua's going to go down. I believe a little bit in Zach Wilson. There's a little bit of tease for y'all. So,
oh boy,
or Zach Wilson might be playing. So there's a couple waiver wire pickups throughout the year, but I'm going to nail this segment down. So that's the last thing in the chat, man. Like, let us know what you want to hear from. How do you want to hear fantasy picks this year? And what do you want each week? Because I do it and I dive into it. I bet a little bit on Prize Picks. Who knows? You might double down with me, or you could lose money with me. That's on you guys. So yeah,
follow him at 4th and Low on TikTok for all that information, and he does a lot of great videos. You'd love to follow, get that content. Follow me at Tim Jitsu. And don't forget, every Tuesday, we are right here live on YouTube at QB Huddle. And if we're not on location on Sunday morning, you could look for our pregame show right here from 10:30 to 11:30, also live on YouTube. We're putting that together now so you get the ins and outs of what's going on and get excited for Sunday football, because we are only, a week away now, a week and a couple of days from game number 1, where the Cowboys go into Philly and get their asses kicked. Talk about that later when it's time.
Ceremony.
Oh, I can't wait for that. No, yes, I can. Yes, I can. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. Thank you to New Era Media. Thank you to allaccessfootball.com. Thank you to my co-host Lo. Thank you to everyone in the chat, which is Brandon Newey. So thank you for chatting with us. And till next week, folks, keep those chains moving.
Miss you, Newey.